You remember the exact moment, not approximately. Exactly. You were sitting somewhere, maybe at your kitchen table, maybe in your car in a parking lot, maybe in bed at 11 at night with your phone balanced on your chest, and you opened your banking app, and the number was there. A number you had been working toward for months, maybe for over a year, and something happened inside you that you did not fully expect and could not entirely explain. It was not just relief, it was not just satisfaction, it was something older than that. Something that felt like the ground shifting slightly beneath your feet. Like a door you had been pushing against for a long time had finally, quietly come open. Most people who hit their first major savings milestone report feeling something they struggle to put into words. They describe it as a before and after. Not dramatic, not fireworks. More like a shift in how they carry themselves through the day. A quiet change in how they think about problems. A new relationship with numbers on a screen that they did not have before. And the interesting thing is, this reaction is not random. It is not a personality quirk. It is not something that happens to optimistic people and skips over pessimistic ones. It is biological. It is neurological. It is predictable. Your brain does specific things when you cross a financial threshold that you set for yourself. And understanding what those things are changes how you set your next goal, how you sustain momentum, and how you avoid the traps that derail people right after they achieve something they worked hard for. This video is about what actually happens to your brain when you hit your first major savings milestone, not the financial mechanics. You can find those anywhere. The mechanics underneath the mechanics. The reason some people parlay a $10,000 savings milestone into $50,000 and eventually into financial independence, and why others hit the same milestone and find themselves back at 18 months later. The difference is mostly in what happens in the 48 hours, the 2 weeks, and the 6 months after the moment you saw that number. My name is Arthur. If you are new here, this channel is about the math and psychology of personal finance. Real numbers, real behavior, no generic advice. Subscribe if that sounds useful. Let's get into it. The first thing that happens within seconds of seeing that number is a dopamine release. This is not a metaphor. This is a measurable neurochemical event. Your brain's reward circuitry, the same system that responds to food and social connection and physical safety, fires in response to perceived goal completion. You crossed a finish line your brain had been tracking, and it rewards you the same way it rewards any other survival-relevant achievement. Here is why this matters. Financially, dopamine is not a celebration chemical. It is a motivation chemical. Its primary function is not to make you feel good about what you just did. Its primary function is to make you want to do the next thing. Dopamine is forward-facing. It is the brain's way of saying, "That worked. Do more of that." This is why people who hit savings milestones frequently report that reaching the goal actually increases their motivation to save rather than decreasing it. The intuitive assumption is that once you achieve something, you relax. And sometimes that happens. But the neurochemical reality is more nuanced. If the milestone was meaningful enough, if it represented real effort over real time, the dopamine response is strong enough to carry forward momentum rather than dissipate it. The research on this comes from studies of goal completion behavior in behavioral economics. In one well-known line of research, participants who completed an intermediate goal showed higher rates of continued behavior toward a larger goal than participants who did not have an intermediate checkpoint. The milestone itself, independent of the dollar amount, was a behavioral accelerant. But here is the catch. The dopamine response is time-sensitive. It peaks within hours of the achievement and begins to decline within days. If you do not convert that neurochemical window into a structural decision, a new goal set, a new automatic transfer initiated, a new account opened, the momentum evaporates, the window closes, and you are left with the memory of the feeling but not the behavior change that the feeling was designed to produce. This is the first trap. People hit $10,000 in savings. They feel the surge. They spend 3 days basking in it. They tell a friend. They buy themselves something small as a reward. And then they return to their previous financial behavior without setting the next target. 6 months later, they are at 9,200 and wondering why the motivation is gone. The brain's reward system responded to the milestone. The conscious mind failed to capitalize on it. That is a solvable problem, and we will get to exactly how to solve it. But first, let us talk about what else is happening. Alongside the dopamine response, something else occurs that is harder to name, but more durable in its effect. Psychologists call it identity updating. When you achieve something that you previously only believed yourself capable of, your self-concept shifts, not dramatically, not all at once, but measurably. Before hitting the milestone, you held a version of yourself in your mind. That version had a particular relationship with money, defined largely by your history with it. If you grew up in a household where money was scarce, Your financial identity was shaped by scarcity. If you had a period in your 20s where you carried credit card debt and lived paycheck to paycheck, that experience became part of your financial self-concept, even if your circumstances later changed. These identities are sticky. They persist long after the external conditions that created them have passed. But a major savings milestone is one of the most powerful identity-disrupting events in personal finance. It is concrete. It is undeniable. It exists in your bank account right now, and you can look at it. You cannot argue with it the way you can argue with an ambition or a value. You did the thing. The thing is there. And that fact begins, slowly, imperfectly, but really, to rewrite the internal story you carry about what kind of person you are with money. Research on identity-based behavior change shows that behavioral shifts tied to identity are more durable than those tied to willpower or habit alone. When someone begins to think of themselves as a saver, not as someone who is trying to save, but as someone who saves because they have evidence that they do, the behavior becomes self-reinforcing in a way that pure discipline cannot replicate. James Clear, in describing the mechanism behind long-term habit formation, draws the distinction between outcome-based goals and identity-based goals. Outcome: I want to have 10,000 saved. Identity: I am someone who manages money well. The milestone does not just satisfy the outcome. If you receive it correctly, it begins to install the identity. Now, here is where it gets complicated, because identity updating is not automatic. It requires something that most financial content never talks about: deliberate integration. You have to actually look at the milestone and consciously say, out loud or in writing, this is evidence of who I am. Most people do not do this. Most people hit the milestone, feel the hit of accomplishment, move on, and leave the identity updating potential untapped. This is not a minor omission. It is the difference between a milestone that changes your trajectory and one that becomes a pleasant data point in your financial history. Let us talk about the third neurological event, and this one is the most counterintuitive. It is called threat response relaxation, and it is actually dangerous if you do not know it is happening. Here is the mechanism. Financial stress is a genuine survival threat to the human nervous system. When your savings account is near zero, when you are one car repair away from not making rent, when you are carrying debt with high interest rates and no clear payoff date, your body registers this as a threat, not metaphorically, literally. Cortisol, the stress hormone associated with threat response, is elevated in people under financial stress. Studies measuring cortisol in experimental conditions where subjects were asked to think about their finances showed significantly elevated levels in people with high debt and low savings compared to those with financial cushion. When you hit a major savings milestone, especially a milestone that represents genuine security, like a fully funded emergency fund, cortisol levels begin to normalize. The threat response relaxes. This is biologically appropriate. You are safer. The nervous system correctly updates its threat assessment. The danger is behavioral. When cortisol decreases, vigilance decreases. The same alertness that made you track every dollar, decline social outings, pack lunches, cancel subscriptions. That alertness was partly fueled by the stress of scarcity. Remove the stress, and you inadvertently remove some of the behavioral fuel. This is why people who reach $10,000 in savings sometimes find that they start spending slightly more without consciously deciding to. The alarm has been turned off. The urgency is gone. And in its place is a quiet loosening, subtle, barely perceptible, but real. A dinner out that they would have cooked before. A subscription they do not cancel immediately. A minor upgrade that they justify on the grounds that they have money now. Over 6 months, these micro increases in spending, each individually justifiable, add up, and the person finds themselves at $8,700 in savings, wondering why it feels like they are running in place. Understanding this mechanism does not mean you should keep yourself stressed. It means you need to replace the behavioral fuel that the stress was providing with something more sustainable. A system, a structure, an automatic transfer that does not require your vigilance to function. A next goal with the specific number and a specific date. Here is the practical architecture of what to do in the 48 hours after hitting your first major savings milestone. Step 1. Set the next number immediately, not within a week, within 48 hours. The dopamine window is open. Use it. If your milestone was 10,000, your next number is 15,000 or 20,000. Write it down. Say it out loud. Put it in your phone. Make it real before the neurochemical window closes. Step 2. Increase your automatic transfer. Not by a dramatic amount, by whatever percentage of your current savings rate produces discomfort without pain. If you were automatically transferring $300 a month to reach 10,000, set a new automatic transfer of 300, 400, or 400. The effort required is minimal. The compounding effect over the next 12 months is not. Step 3. Perform the identity statement. This sounds uncomfortable, and that is why most people skip it. Write one sentence. I am someone who saved 10,000, and I am building toward 20,000. Put it somewhere you will see it. This is not motivational poster behavior. This is identity installation. You are giving your brain a narrative to live into. Step 4. Audit the threat response. Relaxation. Look at your last 3 months of spending and your projected next 3 months. Find the places where your spending is likely to loosen now that the urgency has decreased. Name them specifically. Decide in advance which loosening you accept as a conscious reward and which you will not allow to happen by default. Step 5. Do not reward yourself with money you were planning to save. This one is controversial. A small reward is reasonable and psychologically healthy. Denying yourself any acknowledgement of genuine achievement is its own kind of error, but the reward should be bounded. Decide in advance. I will spend X celebrating this milestone, and I am deciding that now, not in the moment when I am feeling the dopamine hit and my judgment is compromised. The financial milestones that change trajectories are not the ones where people save the most money fastest. They are the ones where people correctly process the psychological event of the achievement, where they felt the dopamine hit and converted it into structural momentum, where they let the identity updating actually update their identity, where they recognize the threat response relaxation for what it was, and built systems to replace the vigilance that the stress had provided. The first major savings milestone is unique in a person's financial life. It will never happen again in the same way. The second milestone, the third, the fifth, they are meaningful, but they do not carry the same neurological weight as the first time you crossed a threshold you genuinely did not know you could reach. The first time is when your nervous system most completely revises its model of what you are capable of. That revision is available to you. Most people let it pass without fully using it. A $10,000 savings milestone is not just $10,000 sitting in an account. It is evidence. It is data. It is a before and after line that your brain will draw on every subsequent financial decision you make, consciously or not. The question is whether you are going to receive that evidence deliberately, integrate it into who you believe yourself to be, and build on the momentum it generates, or whether you are going to feel great for a week and return to baseline. The math of compound interest is remarkable, but the compound interest of identity, of genuinely believing, because you have done it, that you are someone who builds financial security, that compounds even faster. And it starts the moment you see that number on the screen, if you know what to do with what you are feeling.